It was the last day of senior year, and the school was buzzing with the usual mix of excitement and relief. For most students, it was a day to be remembered with laughter, goodbyes, and last minute pranks. But for me, it became the day I encountered something I still can't explain, something terrifying that has haunted me ever since. The day started like any other last day of school, teachers handing out yearbooks, students rushing the halls, and the distant sound of lockers slamming shut. I was making my way to my locker, number 237, to grab my books one last time before heading to the auditorium for the closing ceremony. When I reached my locker, something felt off. The hallway was unusually empty, almost eerily silent for that time of day. I shrugged it off and focused on opening my locker, but when I twisted the lock, it didn't budge. I tried again, harder this time, but it remained stuck. I glanced around. The corridor was deserted. No classmates, no teachers. Just the faint echo of a distant bell. Curious and a little annoyed. I tried the lockers next to mine. All of them were normal, except one. Locker 238. The one right beside mine was missing entirely. No locker, no door, just a blank patch of wall with peeling paint. It was as if the locker had vanished into thin air. I stepped back, heart pounding. That locker had always been there. I knew it. I had seen it every day for the past 4 years. Suddenly, a cold draft brushed past me. The fluorescent lights flickered. I turned to run, but my legs felt like lead from the empty space where the locker had been. I heard a faint whisper, a voice barely audible, saying, "Help me, dot, dot, dot." I froze. My mind screamed for me to leave, but my body was rooted to the spot. The voice grew louder, more desperate. "Help me, dot, dot, dot." Suddenly, the wall in the blank space shimmered like water, and I saw a figure, a pale face, eyes wide with terror, staring out from a shadowy void. I stumbled backward and nearly fell. The hallway behind me was still empty, but now, the air felt thick with something dot, dot, dot wrong. I don't remember how I got out of the school that day. All I know is that locker 238 was never there again. And sometimes late at night, I hear whispers, echoes from that vanished locker. Asterisk after that terrifying encounter. I avoided the hallway near locker 238 for days. I told myself it was just a trick of my imagination, stress from finals, or maybe a prank by someone. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. The whispering voice echoed in my mind. "Help me, help me." And a feeling of dread settled over me like a heavy fog dot the next morning. Curiosity got the better of me. I went back to school early, determined to see if the locker had truly vanished or if I had imagined it all. When I arrived, the school was eerily quiet. I walked down the hall slowly, every step sounding unnaturally loud. When I reached locker 237, the empty space beside it was still there. No locker. Just blank, cracked wall. But something new caught my eye. There, scrawled faintly on the wall, where the locker door should have been, were words etched in what looked like dried blood. "Find me." My breath caught in my throat. I reached out to touch the words, but the wall was cold and solid. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. Then, from somewhere down the hallway, I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming closer. I turned quickly but saw no one. The hallway remained empty, but the footsteps kept coming, echoing louder, until they stopped just behind me. A cold hand gripped my shoulder. I spun around, but there was no one there. The air grew colder, and the lights flickered violently. Then, all at once, the hallway went dark. I felt a presence, heavy and suffocating. Pressing in on me, I ran, without looking back, until I burst through the front doors into the sunlight. I never told anyone what happened. Who would believe? Me? But I knew one thing for certain. Locker 238 was a gateway. A trap. Something or someone trapped behind that vanished door was trying to reach out, begging for help. And if I ever went back, I wasn't sure if I'd come out. Asterisk days turned in 2 weeks, but the image of the empty locker space haunted me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was trapped just behind that cracked wall. One afternoon, Unable to resist, I asked the janitor about locker 238. He looked at me strangely, then said, "That locker's been gone for years, ever since that girl disappeared." "What girl?" I asked, my heart pounding. "About 5 years ago," he said quietly. "A student named Emily was last seen near that locker on the last day of school. She never showed up for summer break, and no one ever found her. Some say she was locked inside the locker, trapped in some dark place. They never found a trace." His words chilled me to the bone. That night, as I lay in bed, the whispering returned, softer now, almost like a sigh. "Thank you?" I don't know if it was Emily or something else, but I've never gone near locker 238 since. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't heard her cries for help. Maybe she would still be trapped behind that vanished locker door, lost forever. And maybe one day someone else will hear her whisper and the locker will open again. The last day of school had an odd energy that year, like something was lurking just beneath the surface. Waiting, it was early afternoon when the final bell rang, signaling freedom for most students. The courtyard was mostly empty, save for a few stragglers lingering on the cracked concrete, the rusting benches, and the dying trees shedding their last leaves. I was sitting alone on a bench near the edge of the yard, my backpack heavy with textbooks I had forgotten to return. The air was thick with the scent of decaying leaves and stale autumn wind. Suddenly, I heard it, the faintest echo of the school bell ringing again. But this time, a hollow, distant toll that didn't match the actual bell. Curious, I stood and looked around. The courtyard was deserted, bathed in the orange glow of the setting sun. The echo came again, slow, mournful, and chilling. It was coming from the direction of the playground, past the rusted fence that separated the yard from the old forest. Beyond, I knew I shouldn't go, but something compelled me to follow the sound dot as I approached the fence. I noticed a figure standing beneath the skeletal branches of a gnarled tree. It was a girl, maybe my age, pale and motionless, staring toward the school building. Her hair was tangled, and her clothes looked torn and dirty. I called out to her, but she didn't respond. The echoing bell tolled once more, and the girl's head snapped toward me. Her eyes were empty, black voids that seemed to swallow the fading light. Frozen with fear, I watched as she slowly turned and began walking toward the forest. I hesitated, heart hammering, but the echo of the bell urged me forward. I followed her through the rusty gate and into the forest edge, where shadows lengthened beneath twisted branches. The air grew colder with each step, and the muffled echo of the bell rang in my ears, growing louder, yet strangely distorted. As if coming from nowhere and everywhere at one stop, the girl didn't speak or look back. She just glided forward, barely making a sound on the fallen leaves. After what felt like an eternity, she stopped at a clearing. Moonlight, though the sky was still dusky, shone down through a break in the trees, illuminating an old, weathered grave marker partially covered in moss dot, her eyes fixed on it. Hollow and unreadable dot. Suddenly, the bell tolled again, louder than before. A sharp, agonized clang that shook the air. The ground beneath the marker trembled, and I saw a pale hand break through the dirt, grasping upward. I wanted to scream, to run, but my legs refused to move. The girl knelt by the grave, and with a whisper that was more wind than voice, said, "Set me free." The hand disappeared beneath the earth as the bell tolled one last time. Then silence fell, thick and complete. The girl vanished as if swallowed by the shadows, leaving me alone in the clearing, the echo of the bell fading into the night. Stumbled back to the schoolyard. Shaken beyond belief, the next day, I asked around about the grave and the girl. The school's oldest caretaker told me about a student who had died tragically on the last day of school decades ago. Her spirit said to haunt the grounds. Trapped in a loop of that final bell's toll, I never heard the echo again. But sometimes, on quiet afternoons, I swear I feel a presence, waiting for the final bell to ring once more. Asterisk after that day. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right about the schoolyard. Even when the sun was high and the halls crowded, I'd catch glimpses of that pale girl standing silently by the fence or disappearing into the shadows of the old forest. One afternoon, a few weeks later, the school held a small memorial near the clearing where the grave was. The caretaker told the story of the girl, a senior who died in a tragic accident on the last day of school many years ago. Her name was Lily, and she never got to hear the final bell ring one last time with her classmates Dot as the crowd gathered. The bell tolled through the school clear and bright, and for a moment, I thought I saw Lily's ghostly figure standing in the courtyard. A faint smile crossing her lips. The echo of the bell had finally set her free. But even now, when the day grows quiet and the wind whispers through the dying leaves, I sometimes hear that distant, hollow toll, a reminder of the final bell's echo and the spirit forever tied to it. The last day of school always felt strange to me. The air was heavy with summer heat, and everyone was buzzing with plans for the months ahead. But that year, the ride home was different. I missed the school bus on purpose. I wanted one last quiet walk to the old bus stop where I used to wait as a freshman, the one no one used anymore since they built the new parking lot. The stop sat along a cracked rural road, half hidden by overgrown weeds and leaning telephone poles. A rusty bench sat under a flickering neon sign that still read school bus, even though no buses had stopped there for years. As I approached, I felt something off. The sun was setting fast, the sky bleeding orange into deep blue, and the wind carried a strange silence. No birds, no crickets, just emptiness. I sat on the bench, feeling the wood splinter beneath me. My phone had no signal. That's when I heard it, the faint squeal of brakes, the low rumble of an engine. Headlights appeared down the road. An old yellow school bus, rust eating away at the sides, slowly approached. The windows were fogged over, and the headlights flickered like dying candles. It stopped directly in front of me with a loud hiss of air brakes. The door creaked. Open. No driver sat behind the wheel. Asterisk. I froze on the bench, staring into the hollow, empty bus. Its interior lights flickered weakly, casting long, shifting shadows across the torn seats. The smell of a mildew and rust drifted out, mixed with something faintly metallic, like blood. A soft voice echoed from inside. "Are you coming?" I blinked hard. The bus was empty. Yet the voice, distant, muffled, repeated, "Are you coming?" I took a cautious step forward, drawn by some force I couldn't name. My feet hit the first step of the bus, and the door slammed shut behind me with a deafening clang. Panic surged through me. I grabbed the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The engine roared to life on its own. The bus lurched forward. The windows outside showed nothing but darkness. No trees, no road, no sky. Just black. Rows of torn seats stretched before me. And as I stumbled down the aisle, I realized I wasn't alone. Students sat in every seat, silent, motionless, their faces pale, their eyes black pits. Some had dried blood on their uniforms. Others clutched notebooks, fingers stiff and broken. I backed away. But the whispering started, dozens of voices overlapping, chanting the same phrase over and over. Last stop. Last stop. Last stop. I covered my ears, but the voices grew louder, filling my skull. The lights flickered violently. The bus jerked to a sudden halt. When I looked up, the seats were empty again. Only one figure remained, standing at the far end of the bus, blocking the emergency exit. It was me. Asterisk, the figure at the back of the bus. The version of me stood completely still, head tilted slightly. A faint grin stretched unnaturally across its face. I couldn't move. My breath caught in my throat as it began to walk toward me. Slow, deliberate steps echoing in the hollow silence of the bus. With every flicker of the lights, it was closer. 5 rows away, 3 rows away, 1 row away. I stumbled back toward the driver's seat, slamming my fists against the door, screaming for help. The whispers of last stop, last stop, grew deafening, vibrating through my bones. The figure lunged. The lights went out. When I woke up, I was lying on the cracked road by the bus stop. My backpack was torn open, my books scattered. The neon sign flickered weakly above me. There was no bus, no figure, no sound except the distant hum of summer cicadas. I staggered home in shock, unable to explain what had happened. My parents said I must have fainted in the heat, that I'd imagined everything. But the next morning, when I returned to the bus stop, I saw something carved into the wooden bench. Deep scratches forming words I knew I hadn't made. See you next year.